This is an example setup, inventory, and action bar that you can use when ranging Araxxor. Always remember to use the best weapons and armor available to your levels, or that you are able to afford. Once you're geared up and ready to go, it's time to head off to Araxxor. The easiest way to get here is going to be by using the Ecto file and teleporting to Fort Phantasma. Once you are there, you can then go to the bank and get set up there. But once you're ready to head out from the bank, head to the west, and go through the energy barrier on the west side. Once you go to the energy barrier through here, you'll need to make your way south and down around the wall. Another option is by using the shortcut that is available to you right by the bank. This will keep you from having to run through the swamp. But once you have made it through the swamp, you're going to go ahead and travel to the east and make your way south again to head towards the Araxi lair. It only takes a few to get there, but it's a lot easier if you've completed and have the agility shortcut available. So that way nobody actually steals your world, because it can happen from time to time if you don't get back to the lair in time. But the Araxi lair is right here. Once you go inside, you'll need to cross this gap right here. And then once you've crossed the gap, you'll need to make your way down this way. And once you have made your way down to the south, you'll then see the webbed area. Next, I'm going to show you how you're going to be killing Araxxor. Once you enter the boss room, take note of the spawn that you received for Araxxor. If you receive a melee spawn, you want to go ahead and lobby out of the room. If you receive a mage or a ranged spawn, just turn on your quick prayers, turn to the appropriate protection prayer, drink your overload and activate your aura, then begin the fight. The first ability you want to use at the start is going to be Anticipation. This will prevent you from being pulled in by his cleave attack or getting stuck in a web cocoon at the start of the fight. This will also prevent you from taking any unnecessary damage from these attacks, as he will use one of his 3 special attacks right at the beginning. Phase 1 is primarily going to be focusing on damage per second, so you want to make sure that you have Revolution active so that it can hit for your basic abilities, while you focus on your threshold abilities, as well as activating your ultimate ability, Death Swiftness. Once you use Death Swiftness, you want to make sure that you immediately use your Adrenaline Potion to get your adrenaline back up higher, that way you can use your threshold abilities again. At any time when Araxxor spawns his web shield during phase 1, you want to go ahead and burn down the web that you are going to take for the path. So if you're going to take path 2, burn the web in the middle. If you're taking path 3, burn the web to the south. Then immediately go back to your standing area that you're going to attack him from and DPS. So just make sure that you are DPSing the entire time while the web is burning down. The reason why it's a good idea to go ahead and burn down the web early is since it does take exactly 1 minute for the web to burn down. You can DPS during this time, and when the web does burn down, you can make sure that you have Araxxor down to an appropriate life point level to make sure that you are not wasting too much time on this phase. The longer you waste time on a phase, the more damage you're going to take overall, and the more supplies you're going to use, and that means less supplies that you're going to have for Araxi. Now, the appropriate life points that you want to keep the boss around, if you're taking path 2, is going to be around 2 to 5,000. If you're taking path 3, you want to make sure that you keep this lower than that if possible, as low as around 100 to 1200 life points. The reason being is if you take path 3, Araxxor will not receive any health for phase 3. So you can prevent him from healing as much as possible, making path 3 all the quicker. So again, focus on your damage per second, make sure that you are using Anticipation and Freedom as much as possible to free yourself from the web cocoons, as well as to prevent yourself from being drug into his cleave attack. Anytime he spawns a web shield, if the web is already burning, make sure you're not dealing any damage against that web shield unless you are using a lower tiered ability, such as Fragmentation Shot, or just any of the lower basic abilities. Once you've got him to an appropriate life point level, go ahead and run into the next path. Now, for phase 2 and path 2, this is actually a pretty simple phase. You want to make sure you stand close to the ramp, and you want to make sure that Araxxor is in the acid pool. Now, during this time, you are going to DPS while he is inside the acid pool. You also want to make sure that you're taking care of any of the web sack spawns to prevent him from spawning any minions during any of the phases. You also want to make sure that you're avoiding the acidic spider that he will spawn, because if this touches you at any point in time before it explodes on its own with the little timer above its head, you will be instantly killed and there's no coming back from it. So, focus on damage per second while Araxxor is inside the acid pool. Once you've got him down to an appropriate amount of life points, you want to go ahead and run up to the top of the ramp. Once you're at the top of the ramp, he will start to degrade that ramp, and once it is degraded 100%, you'll be able to move on to phase 3. Just make sure that you have Araxxor down to an appropriate amount of life points. That way you're not having to deal with too many life points, especially if you left him at high life points on phase 1. So phase 1, low life points. Phase 2, path 2, low life points. Otherwise, you're going to have a lot that you're going to have to deal with, especially going in phase 3. And the longer it takes you to actually finish up that phase, the more supplies that you're going to use. So, remember, main focus for phase 2, you're still going to be DPSing, you're still going to make use of your anticipation and freedom abilities to escape the cocoons, as well as escaping his cleave attacks. You'll also want to use your debilitate as well as devotion to make sure that you're not taking as much damage. But once the ramp has degraded, you'll go ahead and move on to phase 3. So the next thing that I'm going to show you is what phase 2 looks like if you happen to take path 3. So let's go ahead and move over to that, and I'll see you guys in just a second. Phase 2 for path 3 is fairly simple. Your main focus is going to be to prevent yourself from receiving damage by staying in the light beams that spawn around the room. All while doing this, you will also have to focus and take care of the egg sac spawns that will appear. The longer you stay in the darkness, the more damage you are going to receive over time. So make sure that you are staying inside of these light beams while also taking care of the egg sac spawns. Now, during this phase, Araxxor will attempt to charge at you. When he does this, you want to make sure that you hit the appropriate arrow key to prevent yourself from taking damage, to make sure that he hits the wall. If his legs are facing to the left, you want to hit the left key. If his legs are pointing down, you'll click down. If he has his legs up, you'll hit the up arrow key, and if his legs are to the right, you'll hit the right arrow key. Avoid this attack twice successfully, and he'll break the wall for you. If you get hit by this attack at any time, you'll take 2500 damage, and it'll do less damage to the wall. Once the wall is crumbled down, you'll be able to move on to the next phase. So make sure that you are getting this down as quickly as possible, and it'll reduce your kill speeds greatly. So let's go ahead and see you over in the next phase. Phase 3 will be virtually the same for the path 2 and 3 rotation. Your main focus is going to be DPSing Araxxor, while also taking note of the highly acidic spiders that he will spawn around the room. If you've taken path 2, the minimum spawn you will receive on these highly acidic spiders is going to be 1. If you took path 3, you are going to receive 4 highly acidic spiders that you will need to have Araxxor absorb. Again, you want to make sure that you are focusing mainly on damage per second, while also avoiding Araxxor's special attacks. Make sure that you are using your damage reduction abilities, as well as using anticipation and freedom to prevent from being pulled in by his special attacks. Also, make sure that once you have gotten Araxxor to a low life points, you are going to go ahead and lure the highly acidic spiders into him. Now remember that he will receive 5,000 life points for each spider that he absorbs. He will also receive a percentage towards his enraged based on the amount of acid that they had inside them. So, if you have taken path 3, each of the 4 spiders will spawn with 25% acid, and once he absorbs them, his rage will increase by 25% for each spider. This is also something that you want to take note of once you get towards the end of the phase, because once he absorbs all of them, he will absorb 100% rage. Now, his rage meter does cap out at 150%. So, if you're already at max rage, this isn't something you particularly have to worry about. So just remember to focus on damage per second, while also luring the spiders towards Araxxor. Only lure them once you have gotten him to a significantly low life point amount, This will prevent you from having to waste unnecessary supplies that you could use for Araxi should you happen to need them. So again, make sure that you are using your damage reduction abilities. Make sure that you're using Preparation and Freedom to prevent yourself from being pulled in by his cleave attack, to prevent yourself from being wrapped in a web cocoon for too long, because during this phase, since he is also spawning the acidic spider, or the sewer spider as I like to call it, he can pull you in with a cleave attack right into it, and that is an instant death whether or not you get hit by the cleave attack or not. So make sure that you are also taking care of the web cocoons, as if he spawns anything in the web cocoon, this will spawn a minion. He can spawn 2 to 3 minions from the egg sacs, and you want to make sure that you kill these before you move on to the next phase, otherwise Araxi will be able to use them. This is another thing to note about the acid that is left over. If Araxi has any acid left over, she will be able to spawn the acidic spiders. This will make it to where you are constantly having to move, and it makes the Araxi phase very ineffective and very inefficient. Another thing that you may notice that I am actually doing during this phase is that a lot of the times when Araxxor is actually spawning the darkness, I'm actually just standing there tanking it. This is an option that you have available to you. It's not recommended once you get to the higher rage levels, because you are going to take an insane amount of damage. But once you've completed this phase, Araxxor is now dead, and you will need to kill Araxi, and I'll show you guys how to do that. Once you kill Araxxor, it will immediately start a cutscene. Make sure that you are rapidly clicking on your minimap during this time to gain control of your character once more. At this time, you want to make sure that you are stalling your adrenaline, make sure that you are fully overloaded, make sure that you are healed up, and that your prayer is at an optimal level. Once Araxi spawns, you'll immediately want to go ahead and start attacking her. Now this is going to be a Jadlite fight, so you are going to be prayer switching throughout the phase. When it spits an acid attack at you, this is the mage attack. When it spits the web attack at you, this is the range attack. Make sure that you are switching between every 2 attacks, as that is the interval that she will attack as long as you're on one specific prayer. Now, at this time, you're going to have to tank out most of the special attacks that Araxxor used against you. This includes the web cocoon, this also includes the cleave attack, this also includes the darkness that was used against you if you took path 3 or path 2. Now, make sure that you are focusing on DPS as well as your damage reduction abilities. Make sure that you are using Anticipation and Freedom to prevent from being pulled in by the cleave attack, and allowing yourself to escape the cocoons early. Again, you want to make sure that you are focusing on damage per second, while also preventing as much damage from being dealt to you as possible. Once Araxxor hits 50,000 life points, she will become enraged, and she will only use her basic attacks. This includes her range and mage attacks. So just focus on prayer switching at this point, as well as keeping yourself alive. Make sure that you are using Debilitate as well as Devotion to reduce the amount of damage that you're taking. Once Araxxor hits 25,000 life points, she'll spawn an acidic wave. The acidic wave will bounce around 4 times, and then it will bounce onto the square that you're standing on. To reduce as much damage from this as possible, once the wave bounces onto you, step 1 step away from the square that you're on. The wave will then bounce around again. You want to make sure that you're doing this while also focusing on your prayer switching and keeping your health high, because you should only take a couple of acidic wave hits before Araxi actually dies. So as long as you do not just run around the room and actually take the hit from the acidic wave, you'll get the kill. But that is all for my Araxxor guide. I hope you did enjoy. If you did enjoy the video, click that like button. If you want to see more guides from me, click that subscribe button. Also, feel free to leave your suggestions in the comments below on what boss I should do a guide for next, and I'll be sure to take care of it. But as always, guys, I want to thank you so very much for watching, and have a great rest of the day. Peace.